Would I be a jerk to divorce my wife after she said she wanted to send our son to a conversion camp? So, this is a pretty heavy situation, and I'm really confused and disgusted NGL because I never thought my wife was like this. My wife, 44F, and I, 45M, have been married for 14 years. We have 2 kids, a 16-year-old son, let's call him Noah, and a 12-year-old daughter. We've had our fair share of disagreements over the years OFC, but things have generally been smooth between us. Now for the context, Noah came out as gay about a year ago. It was a surprise, and as hard as it was to accept, I love my kids more than anything and just want their happiness. My wife visibly didn't take it well though. She was upset and seemed to go through a grieving period where she didn't really talk about it. I tried to support Noah in every way I could, telling him that I loved him no matter what, etc. My wife, though, I could tell she wasn't on the same page. She would say things like, "This is just a phase," or "He needs help," but I brushed it off as her needing time. Fast forward to last week, and we were having a conversation about Noah's future. Out of nowhere, my wife casually mentions that she's been looking into conversion therapy camps and thinks it might be the right solution. She said that Noah isn't truly gay, that he just hasn't been shown the right path, and that this could fix him. My blood ran cold. I was in shock. I immediately told her I didn't agree and that this was not something I could support. She got upset and said I was enabling Noah's confusion and that if I really cared about him, I would help him get better. WTF is wrong with her? She was persistent, and no matter how much I tried to explain that conversion therapy is harmful, like I know those kids get abused, are *ped, and often end up either traumatized or killing themselves, and that I would never send our son to something like that, she wouldn't back down. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't even think I love her anymore. The fact she could be so heartless disgusts me. I know being gay is not easy, and people like her just make it even harder. I'm considering staying, only for our daughter's sake, but would it be okay if it means hurting my son? It feels like a betrayal to Noah. I just don't think I can keep living with someone who thinks this is okay. Relevant comments. Opie needs to get a divorce soon as possible. His wife is setting their son up for child abuse. Opie, yeah, of course I really want to divorce her. We don't even talk anymore, lol. But I know how damn close my daughter is to her mother. But I know at the moment I need to focus on Noah, and hopefully my daughter will be wise enough to understand. Commenter 1. NTA. Please do not send your son to conversion therapy because of your wife's heartlessness. OP, you don't have to worry about this. I will not do this. I love my son just the way he is. I don't even know how to tell him his mom wants to do that. The kids notice the tension between us, but I haven't said anything yet. Commenter 2. Staying for your daughter's sake. WTF? What about your son? NTA. Divorce her and get full custody immediately of both kids. Tell the judge you fear crazy pants will turn your daughter against your son and raise her to be a bigot like her. Also, if you get any of her nonsense in writing, get it in text, save it. Don't tell her you're going to use it in court. Conversion camps should be illegal. It's so disgusting. Opie, you're absolutely right. I'll start looking for a good lawyer and cut her out of our life as soon as possible. Update number 1. So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone here for all the help and advice I've gotten under my post and in DMS. Sorry if I couldn't answer to everyone, there was just too many fucking people, lol. So I posted something about my wife wanting to send my son to a conversion camp 2 days ago. First of all, some people told me to show her videos and documentaries about what happens there, but this argument has been ongoing for more than a week now. I've showed her things and she won't budge. Really bad update if I can be honest, so let's get into it. All of you told me to try to get him out ASAP. Y'all were definitely right. So yesterday I took the day off and went to see an attorney just to get some info about divorce, etc. But after what happened, I'm 100% sure I want a divorce ASAP. Yesterday, I went to pick Noah at his school, and as many of you suggested, we had a long discussion. I basically told him his mom and I may be getting a divorce because she wants to send him to a conversion camp, but I can't accept that. I've talked with her many times and I told him I'll probably go through with it. He looked really hurt. My heart broke all over again, but was very understanding and thanked me for standing up for him. I pulled him into a tight hug and told him I'll always love him no matter what, and that nothing's his fault. At that moment, he started crying because he was so glad at least I was on his side. And I'm very pissed, so sorry if I don't make sense, but apparently his mom had been pressuring him for months. She planned dates with girls to try and fix him, and he had to lie by saying he was going at a friend's instead. She was saying he needs help, and as much as she loves him, he needs to get his condition cured, etc. I feel so bad because I've been so oblivious to all that, and I've failed to protect him for all that time. How do you make your 16-year-old son go through that? So when we got home yesterday, I can't lie, I was furious and confronted her right there and then. At first, she was trying to explain she was doing it for him, but her speech quickly turned to slurs, and it was clear she was just ashamed of having a gay son. In the end, I told her I went to see an attorney, and that learning all that just confirmed that I want a divorce. She got really angry, calling me a delusional disgrace. We argued a lot, and at some point Noah tried to separate us, but my wife punched him multiple times. She was saying disgusting things like he is a dirty F word, and that it's all his fault we're getting divorced because his filth corrupted me. My daughter, who was prob in her room, came to see what all that commotion was about and was rightfully horrified and quickly called 911 when I told her to. Long story short, the cops got there and took her away. She was very reluctant to go because she was not in the wrong, and they needed to let her go. I explained everything to my daughter, and she doesn't want anything to do with her mom anymore. I'm in the hospital because my STB ex-wife broke my rib while I was restraining her. I should have probably went as soon as the cops took her, but IDC, my son was crying. With a black eye and split lip, they are checking for any concussion, and obviously the only thing I cared about was to comfort him because I can't even imagine what it can feel like being beaten by your mom for being gay. I'm planning to file for full custody OFC, and my kids don't want to see her ever again anyway. Given all the charges she's facing, I hope she won't stand a chance against me. I just sent a mail to my attorney, and I hope the procedures will be fast. I've also thought of getting CPS involved, but I'm not sure they will RLY help. Like, I cannot understand how you can grow so resentful of your own kid because of something they can't control. Even I had pretty strong opinions about it, but as a father, it is my role to unconditionally love my kids, and so I learn about the topic and change my way of seeing the world for him. It took some time grasping it, but I never doubted one SEC the love I have for my child. I thought it was the same for my wife. Visibly not. Relevant comments. OP on his daughter's strength to call for help and get her some therapy if needed. OP, thank you very much. I'm so proud of her for doing this, only at 12. She's pretty shaken and confused, but she seems to understand the gravity of her mom's actions. I'm so sad she had to be dragged into this mess as well. OP on kicking his wife out of the house, or moving out somewhere with his kids. OP, we've got a house that is under both our names, and E didn't have a prenup. People have been telling me to change the locks and throw her stuff out, but I just don't know if I can do that. If I can't, I'll either go back to my parents with the kids or rent an apartment in the meantime. Update number 2. So, a little over 2 weeks ago, I posted about my STB ex-wife putting both my son and me in the hospital because he is gay. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for the support and advice we've received. The kind words were overwhelming. To all the trolls saying this is fake, God knows I wish it was. Maybe I didn't make much sense because I was extremely shaken, so I apologize if that's the case. Now, for the update. It's been difficult ever since, but don't worry, this is not a bad update. First of all, I was able to get an emergency custody order. I'm very, very relieved because many of you warned me about how people can have their kids forcefully taken by those conversion camps, and I'm relieved that she can't do that anymore. I'm still overly anxious and only leave my son alone when he's at school. I've instructed all the teachers to make sure no one but me approaches him. Thank God my boss has been understanding on the matter. I've been granted the exclusive use of our house as well, so I've changed the locks and installed security cameras. Many friends and family members, from my side of course, have been visiting often to give us both emotional support and safety. Many of you also advised me to document every injury that my son and I sustained. Fortunately, my son didn't suffer a concussion. So I took plenty of pictures and gave them to my lawyer, and she has also taken my son's and my daughter's testimony. Given all the charges my wife is facing, child abuse both physically and emotionally / neglect / endangerment, assault and battery, hate crime, and domestic violence. Yeah, it doesn't look very good for her. Our lawyer is confident that I will 100% be granted full custody. She also said that it's likely STB's attorney will recommend that she gives up her parental rights, given the overwhelming evidence against her. Also, T is very likely that my son and I, possibly even my daughter if she asks for it, will be granted a restraining order against her. My lawyer has told me CPS involvement will only strengthen my case, as they are thoroughly investigating everything. While we're still waiting to get the court date, I am feeling highly confident and relieved for the first time since all that shit happened. I've gathered tons of overwhelming evidence against the toxin, thanks to that person who came up with that name. I'll keep everyone updated, and thank you again for all the advice and support my kids and I have received. I honestly don't know how I could have gotten through this without all of you. Y'all just saved a family. Be proud. Relevant comments. OP on getting therapy for his children and himself. OP. We've already started therapy, both as a group and individually. I know Noah is having a rough time, but it seems he'll be all right. I'll keep supporting him the best way I can. Commenter 1. I'm so glad you're feeling more confident now. and it's amazing to see how you're protecting your kids. You've done the right thing by taking action and getting the support you needed. Stay strong for your kids. You're doing a great job. Commenter 2. I am so glad that you have legal representation and that she is being dealt with legally and that it looks like it's a slam dunk, and I hope that monster gets put away for a long time. Update number 3. Okay, so buckle up because the past 48 hours have been a complete whirlwind. First off, thank you again to everyone who's been cheering my family on. Your support honestly keeps me sane. But let's just say things have taken another turn, and I'm still processing what the hell is even happening. Here's the tea. I got a call from my lawyer yesterday morning, and she tells me that my SDBX's legal team is apparently scrambling to do damage control. From what she's hearing, SDBX is trying to spin this whole thing as a mental health episode. Insert the biggest eye roll ever. They're claiming she was under immense stress and not in her right mind when she beat her own son and threw slurs like confetti. Sure, January stress makes you abusive and homophobic now? Anyway, their Hail Mary move seems to be pushing for a plea deal that includes court-mandated therapy instead of jail time. My lawyer thinks it's a long shot given the charges, but we'll see. Honestly, I don't care as long as she's out of our lives. Meanwhile, Noah is starting to open up more, and let me tell you, the stuff he's been holding in, it's brutal. He told me how his mom used to sneak in little jabs about how he's not a real man, or how he'll never be loved. That broke me. He's been carrying all this garbage on his shoulders for months, and I didn't even see it. I've never hated myself more for not stepping in sooner. And my daughter? She's a damn trooper, but I can tell this is shaking her too. She asked me last night if her mom ever loved us, or if it was all fake. What do you even say to that? I told her that people can love us in their own broken, messed up ways, but that doesn't mean we have to accept it. I think that landed, but who knows? I've got a therapy session lined up for her tomorrow. Oh, and then because life isn't chaotic enough, I got a call from one of my SDBX's old friends. Apparently, she heard about the situation and wanted to give me some context. This lady, let's call her Karen because, well, she kind of is one, tells me my wife's obsession with conversion therapy runs deeper than I thought. Turns out, she's been attending some underground church group for years where they preach that being gay is a sin punishable by eternal hellfire. They even organize these creepy recovery retreats. So yeah, this wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing. She's been indoctrinated into this madness for a while. Here's the kicker. Karen claims she only called me because she's worried about my SDBX's spiritual well-being. Like, ma'am, are we talking about the same person who literally beat her child? Spare me the sermon. But hey, at least I've got more ammo for court now. Speaking of court, I just found out we have an emergency hearing scheduled for next week. My lawyer thinks we can finalize the custody arrangement and lock in the restraining orders then. I've been gathering every shred of evidence I can find, texts, emails, even voicemails where she rants about how I'm ruining our family by enabling a sinful lifestyle. If the judge doesn't see through her BS, I'll eat my shoe. But here's the thing. Even with everything pointing in my favor, I can't shake this pit in my stomach. What if she gets some leniency? What if she finds a way to worm her way back into our lives? I don't want my kids living in fear that she might show up one day. Last night, Noah asked me if we could move out of state after all this is over. He said he wants a fresh start, somewhere where he doesn't feel like he has to look over his shoulder all the time. I told him we'd think about it. Honestly, I'd pack up and leave tomorrow if it meant giving my kids peace. So yeah, that's where we're at. 1,000 moving pieces, all of us holding our breath, and me just praying we make it out of this mess in one piece. Oh, and one last thing. I've been keeping my daughter's phone on lockdown just in case, and guess what? My SDBX actually tried to call her from a blocked number yesterday. As for me, I'm trying to hold it together, but I won't lie, it's exhausting. Between work, the kids, legal battles, and trying to stay one step ahead of SDBX's insanity, I feel like I'm running on fumes. I've started talking to a therapist myself, which has been a huge help. I've also been thinking more about Noah's idea to move out of state. It's tempting, but there's so much to consider: schools, jobs, uprooting our lives. Still, it's not off the table. The next big hurdle is the final custody hearing, which is scheduled for 2 months from now. My lawyer is confident we'll win, but after the stunt they pulled with the pastor, I'm not taking anything for granted. We're also keeping an eye out for any more threats or attempts at contact from SDBX. The police are investigating the letter, but I'm not holding my breath for quick results. So yeah, that's where we are. A tiny step forward, a new threat lurking around every corner, and me just trying to keep my kids safe and sane through it all. I'll update again when there's more to share. Until then, keep sending good vibes, because we're gonna need every last one of them. Update number 5. Alright, folks, if you thought the last update was chaotic, hold on to your hats because things just went nuclear. First, the big news. The police finally tracked down how that creepy letter from SDBX got to my door. Turns out, she didn't deliver it herself, not surprising, considering the no-contact order. Instead, she roped in one of her die-hard church friends, a woman I'll call Deborah, to act as her errand runner. Deborah admitted to slipping the letter under my door when confronted by the cops, but here's the kicker. She didn't just stop there. This woman has been stalking us. Yep, she's been parked outside my house, taking pictures of me, Noah, and my daughter coming and going. I only found out because a neighbor spotted her and tipped me off. Deborah told the cops she was documenting evidence to help SDBX reclaim her children. Like, lady, this isn't a Lifetime movie. Needless to say, she's now facing charges for harassment and violating the restraining order by proxy. I've added this to the growing pile of evidence against SDBX. But wait, there's more. Yesterday, I got a call from Noah's school. Apparently, SDBX tried to show up there. She didn't get in, thank God, because I'd already informed the school about the situation, and they've been on high alert. But just the fact that she tried has me on edge. I've since beefed up security measures. Noah now has a GPS tracker app on his phone, and I've started driving both kids to and from school myself. I've also hired a private security consultant to advise on additional steps we can take. Paranoid? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. Meanwhile, Noah is struggling. He's putting on a brave face, but I can see how much this is affecting him. He's been quieter than usual, spending more time in his room. I've been trying to give him space while still checking in, but it's a balancing act. Last night, he finally opened up a bit. He told me he's scared his mom is going to snatch him away one day. That broke me. I reassured him that I would never let that happen, but I can't blame him for feeling that way. The whole situation is a nightmare, and it's taking a toll. My daughter, on the other hand, has gone into full-on protective mode. She's like a mini bodyguard, constantly checking to make sure the doors are locked and asking me what she should do if her mom tries to come back. It's heartbreaking to see her so hypervigilant at such a young age. I've been working with her therapist to help her process everything, but it's a long road. And then, as if all this wasn't enough, I got hit with another curveball today. My lawyer called me with some interesting news. Apparently, SDBX has decided to go nuclear herself. She's suing for full custody. Yeah, you read that right. Full custody. Her argument? That I'm an unfit father who's poisoning the children against her and living a lifestyle that goes against moral decency. I nearly choked on my coffee when I heard that. Her case is laughable, of course. We've got a mountain of evidence against her, not to mention the criminal charges she's facing. But the sheer audacity of it all is infuriating. It's like she's doubling down on her delusions, refusing to see that she's the one who's destroyed this family, not me. My lawyer is confident we'll crush her in court, but the process is going to be messy and expensive. I'm already preparing for another round of character assassination and dirty tactics. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if she tried to bring in a psychic to testify that the gay agenda is corrupting her children. Nothing seems off limits for her. On the brighter side, yes, there's a sliver of light in this dumpster fire. Noah had his first big breakthrough in therapy this week. He told his therapist that he's starting to feel a little less broken. That made me tear up because, honestly, if this kid can find even a shred of hope in all this chaos, I can too. I also caught him texting with a friend last night and laughing, which felt like a tiny victory. As for me, I'm exhausted but determined. I've made up my mind. Once the dust settles, we're moving. Maybe not out of state yet, but definitely somewhere far enough away that SDBX and her church cult won't have easy access to us. I've already started researching new schools for the kids and looking into job options in other cities. It feels like the right move, even if it's a huge undertaking. So that's where we're at. Court battles, stalkers, security upgrades, and trying to keep my kids from falling apart. It's a lot, but I'm not giving up. If SDBX wants a war, she's got one. And let me tell you, I will fight tooth and nail to make sure my kids are safe and happy. Update 6. It's over. It's finally over. I'm sitting here in a house that feels quiet for the first time in months, and the only thing running through my head is, we survived. Here's how it all went down. The final custody hearing was yesterday. After everything that's happened, after every court appearance, every police report, every therapy session, this was the moment where it all came to a head. I was nervous, like, heart pounding, can't sit still nervous, but also determined. I knew we had the truth, the evidence, and the kids' wishes on our side. Still, with SDBX's track record of wild surprises, I was bracing for anything. When we walked into the courtroom, the tension was palpable. SDBX was there, of course, flanked by her smarmy lawyer and a small entourage of her church cronies, who sat in the gallery like they were waiting for a miracle. She looked smug, like she had already won. Meanwhile, Noah and my daughter sat beside me, both of them clutching my hands tightly. My lawyer whispered, "We've got this," and I clung to those words like a lifeline. The hearing started with testimony. My lawyer laid it all out: the abuse, the threats, the stalking, the criminal charges. She presented the mountain of evidence we'd painstakingly gathered, from medical records to text messages to that deranged letter SDBX had sent. The judge listened intently, occasionally glancing at SDBX with what I can only describe as barely concealed disgust. Then it was SDBX's turn. Her lawyer went on about how she was a devout mother who had been pushed to the brink by my manipulative behavior and immoral lifestyle. He painted her as a victim, claiming she only wanted what was best for the children and was being unfairly vilified. I could feel Noah tense beside me, but I squeezed his hand to remind him we were in this together. And then, SDBX took the stand. It started predictably enough. She cried, talked about how much she loves her children, and tried to spin her actions as tough love. But then the cracks started to show. My lawyer cross-examined her, and it was a masterclass in dismantling delusion. She asked her point-blank about the letter, the stalking, the assault, and the conversion therapy plans. SDBX stammered, contradicted herself, and at one point tried to blame me for driving her to desperation. But the moment that sealed her fate? When my lawyer asked Noah to testify. I was terrified at first. I didn't want him to relive everything, but Noah insisted. He stood up, looked the judge straight in the eye, and told the truth. He talked about how his mom had pressured him, manipulated him, and made him feel ashamed of who he was. He described the day she hit him in vivid detail, his voice steady even as his hands shook. When he was done, there wasn't a dry eye in the room except for SDBX, who just sat there, stone-faced. The judge didn't even need time to deliberate. She ruled in my favor, granting me full legal and physical custody of both kids. SDBX was stripped of all parental rights. The no-contact order was made permanent, and the judge made it clear that any violation would result in immediate jail time. She also recommended SDBX undergo a psychological evaluation before she could even think about appealing the decision. As the judge delivered her ruling, I felt an overwhelming wave of relief. It was over. We were free. But of course, SDBX couldn't go quietly. As we were leaving the courtroom, she started screaming about how I'd poisoned the kids against her, calling me every name in the book. The bailiff had to escort her out while her church cronies scrambled to calm her down. It was both pathetic and satisfying to watch. Now, here we are, on the other side of the storm. Noah and my daughter are finally starting to relax, though I know it'll take time for the scars to fully heal. Noah is already talking about joining a support group for LGBTQ+ teens, and my daughter wants to start a safe space club at her school to help other kids who've been through tough times. I couldn't be prouder of them. As for me, I'm in the middle of packing. Yep, we're moving. I found a new job in a different state, somewhere quieter, safer, and far away from the ghosts of this nightmare. It's a fresh start for all of us, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. To everyone who's been following this saga, thank you. Your support, advice, and kind words have meant more than I can ever say. You reminded me that there's light even in the darkest times, and that standing up for what's right is always worth it. This is the end of the road for this story, but it's the beginning of a new chapter for my family. And as we step into this new life, one thing is clear. We're stronger, closer, and more determined than ever to live authentically, unapologetically, and with love as our guide. And to SDBX, wherever she ends up, good riddance. She doesn't get to haunt us anymore.